UFC 252, Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier. This is the trilogy fight. Cormier knocked Stipe out the first fight. Stipe returned the favor the second fight. And this is for all the marbles. This is arguably to see who is the baddest heavyweight of all time. Am I right?
Oh, agreed.
Agreed, right?
100%.
So,
trilogy fight, knockouts in the first and the second. It's going to be a classic.
This is going to be really interesting, but that's just one aspect of this card that we're going to talk about because, like always, we got three sleepers for you. I'm joined by my guy AJ once again, and we want to break down this card a little bit, but I want to show you a couple of the people who you might not expect to just have incredible performances tonight. So we got some veterans, we got some young guns. Let's get into it. AJ, man, I want to start off with this, man. I want to start off talking about women's strawweight, 115 pounds. This is going to be Felice Herrig. She's number 15 ranked in the UFC. Felice Herrig, versus Vera Jandiroba. And if you know anything about the fight game, then you know that this is going to be a battle of styles, right? So you got a ground fighter in Jandiroba, one who has 7 of her 15 wins by rear naked choke, specifically rear naked choke, not just submission, right? So she's getting people out of there. Her last 3 out of her last 5 wins have been by submission. Man, this is a scary matchup for Felice Herrig, who is a UFC veteran, man. She has 10 of her 14 wins by decision. Hasn't won a fight since 2017, though. So this is where it's going to be interesting for both of them. Both of them are, let's see, last 5 fights, Herrig is 3-2, Jandiroba is 4-1. Let me tell you a little bit about these two fighters real fast. AJ, first, have you heard about either of these fighters? To what extent have you heard about these fighters?
Well, like you said, Felice Herrig's a vet. Mm-hmm. She's a veteran in the game, but she hasn't been on a hot streak. She lost, Michelle Watterson to the Karate Hottie in her last unanimous decision.
Yep.
And that was actually a really good fight. I was rewatching that fight, and she's solid. She has solid performance, but she just got outclassed by the Karate Hottie. Vera Jandiroba, not much. I didn't really know much about her, to be honest with you. So it was shocking to see that she's just out there putting people to sleep with that rear naked choke.
Well, here's the thing, man. I don't blame you for not seeing much of her. She's 1-1 in her UFC career, right? She doesn't have much experience. I'm going to tell you this about Jandiroba. She wants to get you on the ground, and she wants to take this fight into a grappling match. The striking is there. Don't get me wrong. Like, she will throw bombs at you, but it's incredibly slow overhand rights. The striking really, it's just a good decoy to set up that grappling. And unfortunately, we talked about this in the last episode. The way that the judging works in the UFC is that wrestlers, they get somewhat of an advantage, correct? And what's problematic about that is fighters like Jandiroba, she is incredibly good off of her back. And what I mean by that is she'll throw subs at you. It doesn't matter if you got posture over her. It doesn't matter what position you're in. She is going to throw an offensive game at you, even on her back. But in the eyes of the judges, that doesn't always work, which is partially why I believe she lost her last fight, right? But the key to take away here is mean Muay Thai knees, man. She likes to get you in the clinch, and I'm going to talk about knees a lot on this card. She's going to get you in the clinch. She's going to dough you up in the body, and she's going to just try to control the fight in terms of just strength, get you on the ground or keep you in the clinch. Now, Felice Herrig, she wants to move forward. She wants to strike. She wants to throw bombs at you. She has very effective clinch control that was similar to what I talked about last card with Yana Kunitskaya. It's kind of a similar style when you talk about strength of control in the clinch. It's going to be like an offset more or less because Jandiroba wants to get you with the Muay Thai knees. Herrig wants to clinch you up, throw some knees at you. And she's not very comfortable on the ground, which is why I think this is going to be such a great fight, is because you have two fighters who kind of neutralize themselves, but there's one key differentiator, which is the style, man. One likes to be on the ground, one doesn't. And as you know, in MMA and UFC, that's a deal breaker sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm. Styles make the fights. You know what impressed me about Jandiroba, Derick? Her first time being taken down in her pro career was in her UFC debut against Carla Esparza. That's pretty incredible. That's some amazing takedown defense, especially in a fearsome weight class like straw weights.
Well,
you got some savages out there.
Carla Esparza, I mean, you can't be mad at yourself for getting taken down by her, right? She's an incredible wrestler. She's an incredible wrestler, but I mean, that's the first fight that you need to look out for. What's the next sleeper we got, AJ? You up?
The next sleeper, I wanted to go with an early prelim fight. You got to get there early to check this sleeper out, but it's TJ Brown versus Danny Chavez. And I'm really impressed with TJ Brown. He's 4 wins, 1 loss in his last 5. Even in his with the early UFC debut loss, he's still coming either for early head kick or arm triangle. So he's all about high pressure, coming forward and looking to bang or take you down and arm triangle. Danny Chavez, he has a pretty hard time versus wrestlers, and he likes to keep his hands a little low. So it's going to be interesting with the striking prowess of TJ Brown to see what kind of unfolds here. But it's looking like it's going to be one of those early fights you need to check in for.
Dig. And let me add just a couple of things about TJ Brown, because I decided to watch his Contender Series fight just as a little recap to talk about it, right? And one thing that I noticed is the man is strong in his control on the ground, right? So he'll get, I mean, 9 of his 14 wins are by submission. So, I mean, that's very telling in and of itself. But he did one of the worst, most egregious things that I've ever seen a fighter not get disqualified for, and he still ended up winning the fight a little bit later. What he did is he pulled a John Jones-esque move where he has you against the cage, and he's going to, fake the knee as if he's going to throw it to you. You never get up, knees you straight in the head. And the fighter decided to continue. I apologize because I forget the name of the fighter. I literally just watched this fight. But the fighter was able to continue because he wanted to, go the pride and the honor route, and ended up getting tapped in the next round, which gave TJ Brown the victory that he needed to earn his UFC contract. So it's just a little bit of context there to say, yeah, this dude is a beast, man. 14-7, 13 of his 14 wins haven't gone the distance. I think this kid is going to be special. Kid, who am I, right? But I think this fighter is going to be special. But I will tell you this, man, you got to watch out for that on the highest of stages, because you don't always get gifted opportunities where your fighter just continues, right? There's a lot of fighters who, let's be honest, could have their titles revoked, could have a lot of victories turned into losses if their opponent just decided they couldn't go any longer, right? So something definitely to think about here. I don't know too much about the Danny Chavez dude either, man. I try to watch a couple of fights, and all you can do is scrounge YouTube for some clips maybe 3 years ago or whatnot. But another interesting one, man. Styles make fights 100%. So let's get into the next one. And then you just talked about some young guns, right? I want to kind of flip it a little bit, and I want to talk about some older fighters. I mean, well, one dude is an older fighter. One dude is from your neck of the woods, man. Fighting out of Jackson the Wink MMA, John Dodson. If you're a fan of UFC, if you played UFC video games from 2005 or whatever, you know who this dude John Dodson is, man. This dude is a small man. I like to say, like, athleticism wise, he's like a Mighty Mouse 2.0. You know what I mean? He just don't got all the rest of the game to round that out, but what's interesting about John Dodson and his opponent, Merab Dvalishvili, is that a lot of people are expecting this to not even be remotely competitive. They think Dvalishvili is going to steamroll him. And I'm not going to lie. I'll talk about picks later, but I'm kind of favoring that sentiment. And here's why. Dvalishvili set the bantamweight record for takedowns in a fight in his last fight with 13. In the fight before that, he had 12 takedowns, which is another record. So he beat his own record, and he scored at least 5 takedowns in all 6 of his fights in the UFC so far. So the name of the game is clear. There should be absolutely no question as to what this man's game plan is. The game plan is to put you on your butt, scoop you up, put you on your butt, and I think he wants to break his record again versus John Dodson. Now, what's problematic about this effort, this attempt, is John Dodson isn't really just going to let you take him down, man. This dude's mobility is off the charts. There's
a reason they call him the magician.
Seriously.
He's hard to catch. He's hard to hit.
And it's hard to keep him down. You know what I mean? This dude, John Dodson, man, he's like a little Tasmanian devil. That's really like how I look at his fighting styles, because he's very tight. He can knock you out with one given punch. His last fight just resulted, I think it was a win by elbows. It was a TKO by elbows.
KO in the round 3rd. Mm-hmm.
So he hasn't fared well, John Dodson. He hasn't fared well in his last 5 fights, which is another reason why I think Dvalishvili is expected to just steamroll him. But in his last 5 fights, he fought Marlon Moraes, Pedro Munoz, Piotr Yan, who is the actual champion, the bantamweight champion right now, Jimmy Rivera, and Nathaniel Wood. And Nathaniel Wood is the only one I think he got he got the win over Nathaniel Wood. But the point is, dude, that is a tough stretch of fighters to fight against. That's like championship level contenders right there. Any one of those dudes, I mean, Marlon Moraes, Piotr Jan, Pedro Munoz, Jimmy Rivera, take Nathaniel Wood out of that. Those could all be champions at one point in their career, right? So lastly on this, man, outside of his last fight, Dodson hasn't finished a fight since 2016. He's been all decisions in the last 4 years of his career, pretty much, except his last fight. So in a fight that's favored to go to decision, to go to the bell, where Davishvili is going to take that, that Russian pride and just try to steamroll your opponent and make you suffer and torture you, man, I don't know what's going to happen. But the last final note that I want to take away from this is John Dodson. And this is a statistic metric that I'm not very familiar with. AJ, I don't know if you are either, but when you go on UFCstats.com, they will tell you a fighter's takedown defense or takedown offense, and they'll give you a percentage. Now, for percentage, John Dodson is at 80% takedown defense over the length of his entire UFC career. And, I mean, that's good regardless of how you look at it, right?
80%. It's passing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, hey, that's not just passing. I mean, that's like, you see a lot of fighters who have, 30%, 40%, 50%. They have 80%. That's pretty impressive in my mind. So let's go to the next one. AJ, what you got?
The next one up, I got another women's fight. Okay. Ashley Yoder versus Lavinia Sousa.
Okay.
And I'm excited. It's another one of these things where it's not an old fighter, a respected veteran in Ashley Yoder coming against a young, high-pace, high-flash superstar that's going to be on the rise in Sousa. Now, I don't know if you know a little bit about Ashley Yoder, but she's almost at a 50-50, seven wins, 5 losses. In her last 5, she's 2-3. Lost her last by split decision to Randa Marcos. And I don't know if you watched the fight, but Randa Marcos came in late. I think it was like 2 weeks prior to the fight. Oversized, big. You could just see the stature difference. And Ashley Yoder, it was a great fight. She held on. She did lose by split decision, but she's decent in striking and amazing at jiu-jitsu. So if she's taken down, she's going to hold her own. She's going to be fine. She's a little stiff. I remember last week we were talking about the I forget the name, the lady that she lost to Yana Kunitskaya. The opposite.
Keep going. I'm gonna remember it. Keep going.
but she was real stiff, a little in the same with Yoder, a little stiff, but she's a southpaw with a great heart. Now, Sousa comes in with amazing judo throws. Her hips and her technique is impressive. So she's probably going to be able to take Yoder down. So it's going to be interesting to see that pressure on top with Yoder's jiu-jitsu on the bottom. Sousa loves to clinch and throw those heavy knees. And she's kind of quick and bouncy. So it's going to be another interesting fight, high-paced, high action. And let's see if it goes a distance or somebody gets the early dub.
Dig. And the fighter you was talking about, it was Kunitskaya beat Yulia Stolarenko.
Yeah,
so Stolarenko. Yes. So yeah, I can kind of, I feel you because I watched a little bit of tape on Yoder and I watched some Sousa tape, and she's a superstar in the making, incredibly aggressive. She's going to submit the hell out of you if she gets the opportunity. But like you said, this is going to be a BJJ chess match, more or less, right? Mm-hmm. So these are some of my favorite fights to watch. Now, let's be honest. Let's give the warning for the viewer. If you're a casual fan, if you just kind of want to see some blood, want to see some violence, some mayhem, you might see it in this fight. But this is going to be one of those, they on the ground, why don't they just get up? When in reality, they have an incredible chess match on the ground, making it happen. Jiu-jitsu, man, you got to love, if you love the UFC, you got to love all of it, right? You can't just love the striking, you can't just love the grappling. MMA is a unique sport for that reason because it incorporates everything, right? So you kind of got to give a little bit of love to the wrestlers, even though it's not the most entertaining thing to watch. But talking about wrestlers, man, we got some wrestlers on our hands for this next one. Now, me and you, AJ, we overlapped on this one, right? Featherweight's 145 pounds, just got moved up to the main card because we had a major fight. One of my other sleepers with Kutalaba headlining. That fight got dropped because Kutalaba tested positive for COVID, which is the name of the game right now. Obviously, as we know, we're in the middle of a pandemic. But Herbert Burns, brother of Gilbert Burns, who is almost welterweight champion of the world, he'll get there soon. Herbert Burns versus Daniel Pineda. And real fast, man, because we both gonna break this down. I just want to give a couple key points really quickly, and one of them is just about their records. Really, this is what I want to go over. So, Herbert Burns has much less experience than Daniel Pineda. Mm-hmm. Daniel Pineda has almost 40 fights. He's 26-13. Terrible.
2 no contests.
So yeah, I think 39 fights, right? He's 3-4 in the UFC, and then last 2 fights were 2 no contests. So his last 5 fights are 3-0, I guess, because no contest means it just doesn't count. So he's just undefeated.
Well, he won both of the last the no contest, if I'm not mistaken, against Jeremy Kennedy and then Movalid. I can't even pronounce that last name. I'm sorry about that one. But it's interesting. It's interesting why I didn't get to watch why they were no contests, but he's got some experience to him.
Well, let's just talk about that really quickly, man. The nature of no contests in MMA, because as we're going to talk about in the main event for Daniel Cormier, he actually has a no contest on his record as well, and his was versus John Jones,
John Jones,
and I believe it's the one where John. It was either the first or the second fight. I want to say it was the one where John Jones knocked him out.
I'm pretty sure it is the head kick knockout that got overturned. Yeah, it was a head kick and punches in round 3 by John Jones. And because of I think it was the steroids that they came back and give the rule the no contest after the fact.
So I should have the definition in front of me in all honesty, but let's just brainstorm it through it. No contest literally means the fight never took place, more or less. Regardless if you won, regardless if you lost, or if you lost, it just isn't on your record anymore, which is why when you go on, look up Daniel Cormier's record, you won't find that fight against John Jones. They won't show up as a win or a loss. So really interesting.
And it's weird. Yeah. In the actual record status, they go wins, losses, draws, and then comma, no contest. So it's definitely on the side. It's kind of a weird angle they're taking.
So something to definitely keep in mind. But so let's just go over it, man. Herbert Burns, we already know what the name of the game is. It's jiu-jitsu. 8 of 11 wins by submission. His last decision win came in 2014. So he's just been stopping people left and right. Daniel Pineda, he's a veteran fighter who hasn't actually fought in the UFC since 2014. He's fought between Bellator, LFA, and Fury FC since 2014. All 26 of his wins, though, man. This is the thing that we have to watch out because it's easy to overlook this guy. All 26 wins have come by submission or knockout. Like, let's just stop for a moment and say, wait, what?
All 26.
All 26 wins. Now he has 13 losses. That's a lot of losses, right? But all of your wins have come by a stoppage, which more or less tells you about this fight, which I think this is going to be a neutralizing fight once again. But this kind of tells you, right, if it goes the distance, we kind of know who's going to win that fight. You know what I'm saying? That's speculation, but continue. Yes.
With that one, Herbert Burns versus Daniel Pineda. Daniel Pineda, like you said, he's a veteran. He's good. He's got great striking. He's loose and bouncy, but he is a really good wrestler. And once he gets on top of you, he's all about pressure. He's going to try to keep you down. But the thing with Herbert Burns, like you said, that jiu-jitsu is amazing. He has a long reach, which is really good. Long arms in that grappling game. He's not a novice, but he's not necessarily a banger with the hands. He needs a little bit of defense. Once he gets in the heat, his hands kind of drop. So it's going to be interesting to see if Daniel Pineda can take advantage of that. But once it goes to the ground, I'm going Herbert Burns all day for a choke out. He has smart fight IQ, and he's always looking for a sub, no matter what, even under pressure.
I'm with you, and I say Herbert Burns reminds me of a Ryan Hall in the way where he's just throwing submissions at you left and right. Like, it doesn't matter. It's a sprawl, and he falls to the ground. He's looking for a heel hook or something. Like, he wants to take you out. And you made a really good point, man, because Daniel Pineda, he's a gritty veteran who isn't afraid to strike and brawl, and Herbert Burns is more of an individual who, instead of going straight for the takedown, has learned, okay, I got to set up the takedown. I got to use my striking. He has a very beautiful jab that he uses to set up that takedown. But he has to work on not telegraphing the takedown. Like, I think that his opponents also know that the punches a lot of times are setups for the takedowns. You know, he can knock you out as well. Don't get me wrong. He has a knockout win recently. But yeah, he's not afraid to throw the wild strikes. This is the big key. He's not afraid to throw the wild strikes just like Ryan Hall, because if he goes on his back, who cares? He knows that's where he wants to take the fight regardless. This is going to be, so I'm glad that they moved this one up to the main card. That way it'll get a little more publicity. And I know that if Herbert, listen, I don't know what's going to happen if Pineda does win this, but I know if Herbert Burns wins this, based on the hype train where his brother is on, it's going to skyrocket this dude. It's going to skyrocket him. And the question then becomes, are these fighters ready? Which is very similar to another fight that I want to talk about. We going over more fights than usual this time, folks, but it's because this has got a really top-heavy card, man. And I want to talk about Sugar Show, Sean O'Malley, right? So this is going to be a big fight. Chito Vera, Marlon Vera versus Sean O'Malley. Talk about hype trains. Sean O'Malley is one of the largest hype trains that I've ever seen. You know what I'm saying?
Ever. And fast. He got on that train with that knockout in the Contender Series, jumped up on the cage and said, "Welcome to the Sugar Show," and it has been a non-stop from then on, even with his USADA suspension.
Yeah.
He stayed busy in the USADA suspension and just kept on rolling.
And, I mean, let's talk about what the suspension is for, right? Some weed, man. Some weed, man, right?
Was it weed? I thought it was tainted subs.
For O'Malley. Are you talking about Vera or O'Malley?
O'Malley.
O'Malley was the weed. I'm almost positive. Maybe it was like a trace thing that happened once.
Tainted.
But I know he fell in line with the Diaz brothers, where you just get locked up for the weed, man. You know, it doesn't make any sense. But but this is what I wanted to talk about here, man. It's overwhelming, I believe, that people are going for O'Malley. It's not even. It's kind of without question, which is a little odd to me, because I don't think O'Malley has much experience. You know, I don't think that he's as tested as Marlon Vera is, and here's why, man. His biggest test to date, O'Malley, is Eddie Wineland in his last fight. He was a great UFC veteran, and he knocked him out really quickly, you know? And to me, it was synonymous to when Marlon Vera knocked out Frankie Sanz. And I don't know if you know who that guy is, but he's like a Frank Camacho, where it's like, it's hard to get that guy out. It's hard to knock him out. You know, you can decision him up, you can beat him up all day. It's hard, you know what I'm saying, to really get him out. So I think if O'Malley does beat Vera, then he's ready for prime time. This is the test. In my mind, this is the test, but I don't think it should be as one-sided as it is. And I think that, if anything, man, this should be more closer to a pick'em than it should be, you know, O'Malley just heavy dominant favorite. What do you think?
Well, I can respect where you're coming from with that. Me personally, myself, I'm a huge Sean O'Malley fan. I have been since day one. I've been riding that hype train, no doubt.
Dig.
But I agree with the fact that you're saying it shouldn't be as one-sided as it is. Marlon Vera is a savage with, like you said, knockouts on Frankie Saenz and Andre Ewell. I probably pronounced that name wrong. He's great at striking, and he has very fast low kicks. So if he can take out those legs, he's coming for some heat. It's definitely a potential fight of the night. Vera's a great striker. He's very fast. He's a vet, and he has a great heart. But I'm going Sean O'Malley. Like I said, he stayed busy. He's been flashy. He's riding that high train. He's calling for a knockout. He's saying he's knocking out Show. He's amazing fight IQ with I don't know if you watched the Andre Sukumau fight or just his natural stand-up, like you said, with Eddie Wineland. Nobody does that to Eddie Wineland. And if you watch that, it was all about setting up feints. And his hands mixed with his fight IQ and his coach team, I think it's going to bring him a long way. You're right. He hasn't fought too many big-name veterans besides like Eddie Wineland. He did fight Jose Quinones. But what kind of impressed me, during his suspension, he really went for grappling matches. Couldn't fight in the UFC. So he started to pick up on an aspect of his game that was a little unrefined. And he subbed Takanori Gomi with a guillotine and Hector Lombard with an ankle pick.
Impressive.
He then had a draw. They're pretty impressive grapplers, right?
Yeah.
He did have a draw to Gilbert Melendez, but, I mean, Gilbert Melendez is a straight savage as well, you know? So you can't really hurt him for that one. But I'm thinking, like, if Sean O'Malley is able to round one knockout or tap Marlon Vera, it's going to shoot him right up to title contention. He's going to go right to stardom, even more than he is. But it's going to be a long night if he doesn't knock him out, because Chito Vera's there, and he's not going to be backing down. He's full pressure. He likes that kind of kickboxing, fast legs, and it's going to be a long night.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I think that's where I'm coming from is Chito Vera, if his game plan, which I think it is to immobilize Sean O'Malley, because O'Malley is very much bouncing around, moving around. If he can immobilize him with those leg kicks, which he does in a lot of his fights. Here's the problem. This is my key for Vera. If he doesn't get complacent, he can win this fight, dude. Sometimes he just gets complacent, stares in the mirror for a little too long, and he's just kind of watching. When in reality, when he's just pumping out those leg kicks, man, it's hard to deal with. It's hard to deal with. His last fight was versus Song Yadong, which he lost a split decision, dude. Song Yadong is a nice prospect too. So
amazing.
You know,
that was a hell of a fight as well.
Oh yeah.
They really stayed in it. He showed great heart. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah,
I'm excited for this fight.
For sure. And then it just comes down to, you know what I mean? We've covered a lot of fights, man. It comes down to really the bread and butter, man, the main event. Who you got? Let's just talk about it. Stipe Miocic, Daniel Cormier. Who you got, man? It's the trilogy fight.
In the trilogy, I'm going probably against a lot of other people. I'm going for Stipe Miocic.
And it's not a bad choice, man. This should be a pick 'em. This should be a 50-50 because both of them showed they can knock each other out. Both of them exposed flaws in the other fighter's game. This is going to be a hell of a fight, man. Or this is going to be the most boring fight of the trilogy. We'll see.
Very true. Well, I'm curious to see how busy Stipe stayed in that year off. He hasn't fought since the last fight, basically a year ago. DC, he's had another 2 fights? No, just the one fight against Derrick Lewis and then the loss against Stipe. But sorry, I'm messing up. But Daniel Cormier, he's coming in looking for the takedown. You know, everybody knows what he wants to do. He's even said it himself. He's going to fight a more well-rounded game instead of standing in the phone booth with Stipe. And that's what Stipe likes. He loves to clinch up, stand in that phone booth, but it gets him in trouble. When he's a little hurt, he'll stay there, stiff as a board, chin up, and he's looking to actually bang too and throw those heavy hands, but it can get him in trouble like he did in the first DC fight.
It totally can, man. I got one maneuver that is gonna determine who wins this fight, and I'll say it's for both fighters. It's the left hook. Whoever can land that left hook is going to win the fight, and here's why I say that. The reason why Miocic won his last fight is because he went to the body, left hook to the liver all day long, beat up the breadbasket. You know what I'm saying? All day long, to where Cormier just couldn't take it no more. In heavyweight, he's a bigger man already. Conditioning is something that we need to look out for here. And then same with Stipe, man. If Cormier can get you in that phone book, hit you with the left hook, hit you with that uppercut, that's what he loves, to hit you with the uppercut out the clinch, or, you know, hit you with a shot.
That nice elbow.
Breaking off the clinch. That's the name of his game. And we already know in terms of wrestling, man, the wrestling gets negated. These are both just all amazing all-star wrestlers. Cormier, man, 8 knockout wins, 7 submission wins on his record. Stipe, 14 of 19 wins by knockout. But here's what's interesting. Obviously, since he became the champ, it's a lot harder to just knock people out left and right. You know, you're facing the best of the best. He has an incredible chin, incredible conditioning. You know, if Ngannou couldn't take this dude out, it's hard to imagine that Cormier is going to be able to just knock his lights out again. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to imagine, and the reason why for me is because I think some of that, and this could totally be biased, this could be nonsense, I think some of what that knockout was, Cormier over Miocic, was a little bit of a residual effect from his fight with Ngannou, dude. You can't just fight a dude like Ngannou and just be all right after that, man. Like, you know, you only have so many shots to your chin you could take until it's, you know what I mean, you get diminished, like a lot of veteran fighters we've seen. Look at a BJ Penn, for example. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Dude could take a punch for his whole career. Towards the end of it, though, you just start tapping him and it was game over, right? So I'm going Cormier on this one, and the reason why, man, is because I think wrestling is everything. I think he's a better wrestler than Miocic, and I think he's a better striker than Miocic, to be honest with you. Now, in terms of narrative, I think that because UFC is not just fights, it's entertainment as well. And I think in terms of narrative, it's a better narrative if Miocic wins, because you don't want Cormier to win this fight, vacate the belt, and then you just have a whole power vacuum in the heavyweight division. If Miocic wins, they want that John Jones. They want that dude who's going to be the champ forever. You know what I mean? Like that's what makes things really dope. So we'll see what happens, man. I wouldn't be surprised either way. Just like I said in the Derrick Lewis-Oleinik fight, that was a very 50-50 fight, which actually turned out to be very 50-50. Dude could have got tapped, Lewis could have got tapped in the first round, ended up knocking him out in the second. Man, So this is what we got for you, folks. We just talked about like a solid amount of fights here, and let's just give our main card picks. I'll start first, man. Dodson versus Davashvili. I'm going Davashvili. We got Herbert Burns versus Daniel Pineda. I'm going Burns. Junior Dos Santos versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I'm going Rozenstruik first round knockout. I think he's going to recover from Ngannou, I believe was his last fight, and Ngannou just took his head off. Am I correct about that?
You in like
10 seconds.
15 seconds?
Yeah, something crazy.
It
He
was
just
insane.
ran through him, took his head off. But that's the thing is Rozenstruik, he has the same capability to do that to JDS is what Ngannou did to him. I'm going Marlon Vera, Cheeto Vera over OMalley because I think if it goes the distance, Vera is going to be a tough dude to get out of there, man. And then, like I just said, I'm going Cormier over Miocic for the trilogy fight. Cormier walks away in the sunset in glory, and you know what I'm saying? And the UFC has to figure out who's going to be the next heavyweight champion, which it will probably be John Jones, who moves up to heavyweight. This is my theoretical, hypothetical fantasy right here for the UFC, but that's what I got. What do you got, dog?
Starting off, well, the main event picks, like you said, I'm going Herbert Burns. I'm looking for the choke out round 2. Mm-hmm. Give it a little time. Okay. Next up, John Dodson versus Merab Davashvili. I'm going with the crafty veteran, John Dodson, with the New Mexico Pride. I think he's just not going to be able to get hit. There. He's not going to be able to get hit, not going to be able to take down. And he's in there. You know, he's been there. He's been there for a long time. I'm going with the crafty veteran. Again, I'm also going with the crafty veteran, JDS. I think Rozenstruik still could be a little shook up in the head, or he could be going in for the kill. And I think JDS is a little more well-balanced. He has a ground game where Rozenstruik's really good on the hands, really good on the feet, likes to sip in, counter shot, strike and bang, where I think JDS just has a little bit more well-rounded game, and he's going to be able to just outcraft him. Next up, Sean O'Malley. I'm going with the Sugar Show. Sugar Show versus Cheeto all day. I'm going Sugar Show knockout round 1. Nice overhand right.
That's
just like a piston.
Shooting him straight to the moon. If that happens, that's the next Conor McGregor if that happens.
And I think he has a good fan base behind him where he can be the next Conor McGregor.
Oh, yeah.
But it's going to be a hard night. If he doesn't put him out, it's going to be a long night. But I'm going Sean O'Malley, round 1 KO. Stipe Miocic versus DC. I'm going with Miocic. Just as a New Mexico born, I can't ever root for DC. But I think just technically and fighter versus fighter, no bias of my own behind it. I'm going Stipe. He's had a long rest. He's been studying. And crazy enough, I'm going KO with the knee.
With the knee.
Round 2 with the knee. When DC goes to shoot, after getting tired of each other piecing each other up with the hands, he's going to shoot. And Miocic's going to catch him with the knee. That's what I'm going, man.
That would be, hey, man, this would be a hell of a card. If all of our hypotheticals came true, man, you would want to pay $300 to watch this card, man. You know what I'm saying? But so that's what we got for you guys, man. This is going to be an incredible set of fights. Let us know who you got in the comments below. Listen, we didn't do it earlier because I completely forgot, but let's get into it right now because we didn't get into it earlier. The last fight, Derek Lewis versus Alexei Oleinik, right? We fared pretty well on that, right? I'll say I went 9 for 12, correct? You went 8 for 12. So AJ 8 for 12, I went 9 for 12. I want to say respectively, would you say that's like the best scores we've ever gotten for any card? I know it's the best for me. Yeah,
definitely. And the closest to the actual outcomes as well. Not just necessarily the winners, but closest to the actual outcomes.
For sure. And I just wanted to talk about one fight in particular. I already kind of talked about Lewis Oleinik, how that could have gone differently. But I went for Omari Akhmedov beating Chris Weidman. That's who I had picked. And I just want to talk about how impressed I am by Chris Weidman, who was, I believe, 1-4 in his last 5 prior to this fight. Dude needed a win. I think it was like he would have got cut by the UFC if he didn't get a win. And dudes like this, I mean, the UFC will cut anybody. I don't know if you noticed, Ray Borg just got cut.
He just got cut.
Yeah, Ray Borg got cut because he dropped out of another card. It's just been a bunch of cards he's dropped out of. But they said, like, all right, bro, we've had enough. Get out of here. You know. And in the Dana White Contender Series, man, you know, they had 5 fights in this last one in week 2, the one that just aired, and Dana White signed all 5 of the fighters. So they're bringing a lot of fighters in right now. But regardless, I want to talk about how Chris Weidman showed he knows as a veteran, man. This is a veteran of a veteran. I mean, Akhmedov is as well, but Chris Weidman has fought near champions almost his whole career, right?
Basically, the cream of the crop has had to go through Chris Weidman.
Exactly, to get a title shot, or you know, for whatever other purpose. But Chris Weidman did what he needed to do to get a victory, and the man knows how to win, and that's something that isn't tangible, right? That's not an attribute you can give somebody. It's kind of an IQ thing. Dude knows how to win. He squeaked out the win. It was not exciting whatsoever. He knew it. He admitted it, but he said, hey, a win is a win, and I really needed that. So I was really impressed, and I wanted to, you know, give a little respect to Chris Weidman because I put a lot of doubt on the man. I disrespected the man who beat Anderson Silva twice. You know what I'm saying? So you got to throw respect on the man's name always. But is there I know another one that both of us got wrong, man. I mean, it was really a pick'em. Was the Darren Stewart and the Maki Patello. What do you think about that one, man?
I unfortunately didn't get to watch it live, but I did get to watch the replay later on. And it was just kind of unexpected, to be completely honest with you. He was looking good on the feet and then just gets subbed.
Just like that.
It was just kind of just happened. I was kind of just sitting there watching the replay. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, because I knew the outcome. I heard the outcome on the news and watched the court itself, but it was kind of crazy. Came out of nowhere for me.
And that's just, I wanted to bring that up because it shows you, just like the card we talked about, man, anything can happen. Just because, you know, you could do all of the research in the world, have all the stats, all the analytics, but anything can happen. And, you know, goes to show when Darren Stewart, everyone predicted a knockout, just subs his opponent in, like, you know, just a couple of minutes. But folks, like I said earlier, let us know who you got in the comments below. That's all we got for you for this episode of All Factors Considered. So we both got over 65% of the picks right. You might want to listen. You know what I'm saying? Listen, that's just my opinion. But AJ, man, signing off. You got anything else for the people?
I'm excited for these fights, brother, and it's good to be on here again.
Derick, likewise.
Let us know what you guys have in the comments, and I'll see y'all in the next big one.
Exactly. All right, peace, y'all.